Welcome to the Six Figure Creative Podcast. This is a very different episode from normal, very, very different actually, because I'm solo. I have absolutely no notes. It is all from the gut today, and the topic of today's episode actually ties back into why today's episode is a different type of episode and why I'm doing this solo and why I have no notes for it and all that stuff and why I'm recording this like just a few days before it's supposed to air and so on and so forth. And this is ultimately going to tie back to something that's extremely relevant for you, the person watching on YouTube right now or listening on your podcast app right now, because it's the question that we all have to face at some time or another. And that is the question of, should we just quit? Should we just quit? Should I just quit? Should you just quit? And when I'm talking about quitting, I'm talking about anything, like anything worth doing. Whether you are like struggling with your business right now as a whole and you're considering just quitting, just throwing in the towel and going back to a day job that you hate, or maybe a day job you don't even hate. It's just not exactly what you want to do. Or maybe it's something specifically in your business right now that you're going up against that you're considering quitting, whether it's trying something new in marketing, whether it's building a new system out, whether it's doing something like completely revamping your business that you've been trying to do something for a long time. And then ultimately you decide, should I just quit? Or you have the question inside of you, should I just quit? And this is how it ties back to this podcast right here, because the Six Figure Creative as a whole, for anyone who's been listening for a long time on the Six Figure Home Studio for the first 150 episodes, everything was a lot different than it is now. And those 150 episodes were a lot of fun for Chris and I to do. But we hit this point where we kind of had to face the question, should we just quit what we're doing? But that was a different kind of question we were answering, because it wasn't really just, should we quit and just move on from the podcast? The question really was, should we completely revamp everything we're doing from the ground up and essentially start over again and try to bring the group of people along with the ride that were already with us, which is you listening right now, chances are. Because what had happened after 150 episodes is we felt like we were getting stagnant. Like Chris and I only have so much in our brains, and like to come up with new, fresh content after 150 episodes is really a tall order. And so we wanted to start bringing experts in from other industries to start bringing stuff to us in the audio world or the music production world. And the byproduct of that would be attracting different kinds of people to our world as well. So we moved out to the Six Figure Creative. So with that came a lot of pain. Pain is the pain, and I use the word is relative, like pain, not really. It's like sort of pain, but I like to use the word more friction than anything. With that came a lot of friction. And that friction came in the form of completely redoing everything we were doing for the podcast. The rhythm and Chris, and I promise you, if you're watching right now, you're like, why the hell is Brian telling me this? This ties back into you. Like, I promise I will tie this 100% back to you, the struggles you're going with right now. Like, there's still a big payoff for you, so don't worry. But I'm just trying to make a story so you kind of get this stuck in your head and think about this next time you're considering, should I just quit? But with the podcast, we completely revamped everything that we did because we had a really good routine, Chris and I. It was the routine of every Tuesday and or Thursday at 1 p.m. my time, 2 p.m. Chris's time, we would just show up. We had no plan other than we were going to record a podcast that day. And sometimes we didn't even record a podcast. All we did was chat and just be friends. So that was really good routine. It built our friendship, and a lot of people can tell over the years, like Chris and I's friendship has been a huge part of like why people stick around, because they get to know me and Chris. They feel like they're a third friend with me and Chris. You know, you feel like you're along for the ride, and that is a really good formula for a podcast. And it wasn't fake. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a formula we were doing for TV. Like that's genuinely like that's how Chris and I have been. So none of that was for the podcast. That was just genuinely who we were in that season of our lives. So when we shifted to an interview-based podcast, that's where the friction comes in. We are trying to move to where we're doing weekly interviews, and that completely basically throws away the 150 episodes, 3 years of work that we had done so far, building this really good system and routine around getting episodes out weekly for the podcast. So now the question comes, how's that going, Six Figure Creative? Well, pure download numbers, we're doing fine. Like people are still listening to our podcast. Like we have not I'm happy with where we're at right now. That's not the struggle. That's not the friction. The friction is getting a high quality, high value guest to our podcast every single week so that you, the listener or the viewer, are going to get something you can take away from it, something that's going to actually change your business for the better, or at least something that sticks with you, so that when you hit a problem, you think, oh man, I remember that guest. I remember listening to Anthony on episode 152, where he built, his business to almost 7 figures just doing cold outreach emails. So I should start, thinking about that for my business. I mean, that's the kind of change I want to bring, and people have really cool perspectives. Turns out, building out a really good system for finding good guests, reaching out to them, getting them booked, scheduled, and showing up for a call is actually a lot harder than it seems. And so that's why we don't have an episode this week, is because the system that we've been trying to build out for there's been so many problems with the system we've tried to build out. And it came to the point where it's like, should we just quit and go back to the way we used to do it? It was just me and Chris doing weekly episodes. And the answer is no, we shouldn't quit, at least us in this situation. And that's because I wholeheartedly, genuinely believe in the six-figure creative, the vision I have for that, what it's going to be, what it will become, what it is now, who it's going to help, how much it's going to help. So that means when we hit friction, we have to push forward, problem solve, and figure it the F out. FITFO is something I like to say. FITFO, FITFO, figure it the F out. I'll save the expletive so James doesn't have to bleep this out. I'm trying to make this as little editing as possible for my assistant, James, by the way, so he doesn't have to slog through this on a Monday, the day before this airs. Back to the topic at hand here. Should you just quit? Well, I fully believe in six-figure creative. I still think this is the future of everything we're going to do. I'm going 100% all in with this idea because I just think it's going to bring so much value to not only our current group, the six-figure sexies, if you want to call yourselves that. Most people hate that term, but it just kind of stuck in our Facebook group. If you're a six-figure sexy and you know it, and I still think you're going to get a lot out of the six-figure creative. I 100% believe, even if there's a few episodes that are hit or miss or whatever, I still think as a whole, you're going to get that one nugget that could completely transform your business from somebody who's in a completely different industry that we would have never otherwise gotten if we just stayed in the audio industry. So I'm sticking with that. All that means is we have to problem solve this. And so we're working on it. We have a pretty good system together now where we have some really good interviews lined up. We just have a really bad lull right now where I'm doing the solo episode and it really is topical for you, the person listening or watching right now. Should you just give up? Let's bring this back to you right now, because there's something in your life that you're considering the same exact question. And there's actually two main areas I want to kind of talk about this with, because I see this in these two areas. Actually three areas. One is just quitting as a whole, which what I just said already should be more than enough for you to kind of take away. If you truly believe in what you're doing, if you truly love what you're doing and you know it can work, you're just not sure how, then it's up to you to make it work. And I'll talk about more of that in a second for that person. But there's two other kind of areas that I see people considering this question. And it's really the two chunks of business that you have to think about if you're going to ever make this work. And these are the two biggest chunks of this is basically two halves of your business that you have to make work if you're going to make it in this business as a freelancer or as a creative. There is the side of your business where you're actually getting clients. And then there's the side of your business where you're actually fulfilling the work. And those are that's the two main parts of your business. In any creative business, there's the client acquisition side and marketing and all that crap. And then there's the fulfillment side. Most people, in most cases, struggle on the client finding side. And this is the area that I see so much of the wrong mindset around this, because they'll try something. It doesn't work. The thought pops into their head of, should I just give up? And then they go and say, well, it didn't work for me. Facebook ads didn't work for me, so I'm just going to give up. Now, I'm not saying Facebook ads is the right move for you, but I am saying Facebook ads absolutely work. If you can't get them to work, it's because you're bad at it. You suck at it. You got to get better at it. As someone who has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars profitably on Facebook ads, I know that they work, and I've seen them work in other industries too. So it's not Facebook that's wrong. It's you that are wrong. And this is kind of the hard, tough love that I have to give in this episode, because I want to make sure that you understand if something didn't work, it's your fault as a business owner. This goes back to a book that I really like called Extreme Ownership by, I forget the author's name. It's a really weird name, but he's an ex-military Marine guy, Jocko Willink or something like that. And the whole gist of the book is if something goes wrong, as the leader in the team, it's your fault because you didn't equip someone or you didn't solve a problem ahead of time before it happened, or whatever. It's a really good book if you're the kind of person that struggles with blaming everyone else for things. But it's your fault because you're not good at Facebook ads. I'm just going to keep harping on Facebook ads because this is something that pretty much every creative that I know has dabbled in it and says it doesn't work. And I know it does work. You're just bad at it. But this is the rub right here. This is the big takeaway on this side of things is you being bad at something is okay. I see this in, oh gosh, so many people, especially if you're a 4 on the Enneagram, fours where it's very emotion based. If you're not an Enneagram person, don't worry about what that even means. But especially if you're very emotional, it sucks to be bad at something. I'm an 8. I tend to be the kind of person where I will not let myself fail. I have to figure it out. But even I hate to suck at something and have to resist, like strongly resist the urge to just give up just because I'm bad at it. And I was listening to a podcast the other day where I forget who it was, but they said, when you're bad at something, it's because you haven't put in the hours, and you just have to simply ask yourself, given how much time, effort, and energy I've put into learning this thing, should it be expected that I'm bad at this, or should I be good at this? And I kind of butchered what he said, but it's basically saying, if you haven't put in the hours, of course you're going to suck at it. Facebook ads, you're going to suck at it. If you're struggling on the client delivery side, where you're actually like putting in the work and putting out really good, high quality, creative stuff that are attracting people to you, if you're really bad at it, have you put in the hours? And most people, especially on Facebook ads, because that's just a really good example everyone can kind of understand. If you haven't put in the hours, you're going to be bad at it. You have to be bad at it before you're ever good at it. So like I'm not going to talk about Facebook ads anymore because I don't want to turn too many people off. But whatever it is on the client acquisition side that you've tried cold outreach, you sent 10 emails or 10 messages on Facebook, and you said, oh, that's enough. It just doesn't work for me. Of course, it didn't work for you because you suck at it. And you suck at it because you haven't put in the time, effort, energy required to get good at it. So all this coming back to the question, should you just give up? The answer is, it depends, but likely no. If there is an area of your business that you're really struggling with, you just can't seem to get it to work, but you know you have to make it work in order to do the thing that you want to do or achieve the thing you want to achieve. Going back to me with the podcast, I want to make the Six Figure Creative an incredible experience for anyone who listens. I want to bring some really awesome people on. Not that we haven't already. We've brought some really cool people on. I want to bring some really awesome people on to help bring you, the viewer or listener, a lot of value. I cannot do that unless I get my systems down and get through the struggles and the friction that is in my way between you and that vision that I have for all of us here. And so this goes back to you. If you wholeheartedly believe in what it is that you do, it is your obligation to the people that doubt you. It's your obligation to the people that you will serve eventually as a client. It is your obligation to yourself to figure it out, find a way, and push through the friction, even when it feels terrible. Like I'll say it feels terrible to be bad at something, especially when that thing is the thing that's holding you back. It's like the one obstacle in the way to get you to where you want to go, like on the journey. So that is us as entrepreneurs. That is the nutshell of being an entrepreneur, is getting out of your own way, figuring it the F out, and not giving up on the thing that you know you should be doing. Because in our guts, we know whether we should or shouldn't be doing something. And to just simply keep bouncing around from idea to idea without ever putting in the time to get good at something, that is my challenge to you. Take the time. Don't just give up on the first sign of friction or struggle, and actually take the time to get good at something. So that's really the only thoughts I have for you on this episode today. This is pretty much an uncut, unedited episode. Maybe James did a cut in there or whatever, but I did not pause or stop. So I'm proud of myself for that today. But I just want to leave you with those thoughts because it's really top of mind for me. It's relevant for me. It's incredibly relevant for you right now because you're likely struggling with this same thought. Should I just give up? It may not be something as dramatic as giving up your entire business, but it is definitely something that you need to consider. Everything that I just said there today. So that's all I have with you today. We have a lot of good interviews lined up coming from the new process that we've built out for acquiring guests on the podcast. So there's some fruit coming from all the effort I've put into this over the last few weeks. And I can't wait to see what's in store. But next Tuesday, bright and early, 6 a.m., will be another episode. I hope you have an awesome rest of your Tuesday, and just know that I love you. I'm here for you, and I am going to do the best that I can to make this podcast incredibly valuable to you, the viewer or the listener. So take care and goodbye.